If you have an interest in horses and love learning more about horses, the horse industry, teaching, or even managing your own horse business, then you're in the right place. We would love you to join us on our mission, which is to improve the lives of horses around the world through the education of riders, handlers, and trainers. So get comfortable, listen in, and enjoy.
Horse welfare and safety are of utmost importance where humans have any interaction with horses. Within the courses at International Horse College, we only utilise methods that promote safe and humane ways of interaction between horses and humans. We only support safe methods of educating riders, handlers and trainers about horse welfare. internationalhorsecollege.com, registered training organisation 31352. There's someone we've got on today who is absolutely brilliant with his horse safety and welfare and is a very good instructor. We've had him on a few times before. He's talked about flat work, he's talked about jumping. Now he's going to talk about us getting our head in the game. So he's giving 10 ways to get your head in the game. And it's Brendan Bergin. How are you, Brendan?
Pretty good. I got a bit of a cold at the moment, so you'll have to excuse if there's any coughing and spluttering as we go along.
Okay, I hope you've got a drink of water or something there that you can have a drink as you go. Perfect. Brendan, this whole getting your head in the game. Tell us why we need to get our head in the game. I mean, you've taught us a lot of technical details. You came on, you talked about developing control of speed over the fences. You're talking about precision over the fences. You're talking about developing acceptance and throughness. And now you're talking about getting your head in the game. How important is that?
I suppose the first thing to be always thinking in my head is I try to have a student mindset. Mm-hmm. I try to always be learning something. So last summer, our summer, not yours, I was at a pony club camp, and every year they bring in someone to talk to the kids about something. So this year they had a sports psychologist come in and talk to us about how we've got to. The technical content is all very well, but if your brain isn't calm enough to be able to put it into practice, you're not going to be able to move forward. And the other thing she talked about is that you have to develop skills, and you have to be able to be calm enough to use the skills. I suppose that's where I'm coming from, because I'm a stress orientated personality, in that, like, if something goes wrong, I'll have a massive spike of stress and have to try and get it back down so that I can get the head together and be able to do whatever it is that we're trying to do. So I suppose I think that we have to be looking outside of our field of riding instructors, coaches, trainers, and be looking outside going, people are hugely to do with our business. So we have to understand how to get them in a state where they can learn. In the same way as if your horse is in a heightened flight state, because they have a phobia of the trailer. There's no point in going to the trailer until you've sort of counter-conditioned that response maybe a little bit and gotten a bit calmer about interactions with humans near trailers. So, you groundwork near the trailer, and you don't even think about going into the trailer until you can groundwork in the trailer, or beside the trailer, near the trailer, near the ramp, and so on. So it's the same thing with humans. There's absolutely no point in a coach down there going, sit up and use your reins, if the person is panicking because they're coming down 60 centimetres. It's never going to work out. So that's what gave me the sort of idea. She was absolutely brilliant.
What was her name?
I can't remember. I'd have to look it up. I'd have to look it up. It was that long ago, but she was just brilliant, and she works with the likes of the Irish team and her whole, it'll be borne out to what we talk about, but her whole thing was, remember, it's not all about technical content. It's about confidence. And if you don't have confidence, then you can't do your job. But equally, if you don't have competence, you cannot be confident. And you can't get your head together. Yes. I suppose that's an intro of why I think it's important.
I'm glad you have. Yeah. Look, the first point you've got is to get a progressive goal-orientated plan together. So if we want to get a progressive goal-orientated plan together, how do we start? How do we do that?
You got to start at the end and work backwards. So if your goal
Who says that? Start with the end in mind.
I can't remember, but it's something I've heard over and over again when you listen to really top people. Like Andrew says it all the time, think about where you want to be, and then we've got to build the responses in to make that happen, But if you start at the end point goal, then you can figure out what skills you need to achieve that goal. So, for example, if you decide, right, I want to be able to jump a course of 70 centimeters. If you think of typical riding club person, that's probably what they're going to be going for, 70, 80 centimeters, whatever it is. You start off with, right, I want to jump around the fences. Then you got to go, right, what skills do I need to jump around the fences? And you're probably talking, right, I need to be able to stop, I need to be able to go, I need to be able to turn. I need to have control of the speed and the direction. I need to have my position in a way that I can build that. So you've got to then break it down into small, bite-sized, achievable chunks. And by doing that, you can then sort of start seeing a way to it. Because if I told you, right, my goal is to be a 4-star eventer, you look at that and you go, my God, that goal is massive. But if you break it down into smaller steps, maybe in 4 or 5 years' time, I might have the skills, and my horse might have the skills to do it. And there's also an acronym they use usually a lot in management and team building, and they call it SMART, where you have to have specific goals, measurable goals, attainable, realistic, and you have to put them on a time scale. Because there's absolutely no point in me saying, right, I want to be a 4-star eventer, and just repeating, I want to be a 4-star eventer over and over again. If you want to be a 4-star eventer, you first got to be a 3-star eventer, then a 2-star eventer, then a 1-star eventer. And then over here, we've got EI 100, which is before that, and then EI 90, EI 80. And you've got to work your way up to the levels and build those skills. So I suppose the big thing is to decide on your big goals. And I was listening to a talk, I can't remember who it was. I'm very bad at names at the moment. But anyway, and he was saying that if your dream doesn't scare you, it's not big enough. And it's much better to fail at a huge goal than to not have a goal that's big enough.
Yes.
Because we're so self-limiting. Like, I'm sure you never thought that Horse Chats would be as big a success as it was.
Oh, I'm very happy. You
started talking off to your friends and stuff. But if you tried big pictures, you could have probably seen it's a resource that so many people are using. Like, even my clients who know very little about horse are all logging on to Horse Chats and coming back to me and bombarding me with questions. I'm going, oh my God, I've actually got to go, and I've got to go back and listen to that chat so I can actually help you.
Yes,
so I suppose that's one of the big things is big goals and break them into small ones. And if you have a good coach, they can be really helpful with that, because sometimes when you're on your own and you're looking at this big goal, you can't see the way through. So you need a good coach that knows what they're doing and can really give you the confidence that here's the plan, let's execute.
Yes. And I think too, just with a good coach, you've got to have one who believes that you can do it. There's no good a coach saying, oh, I haven't gone that far, and doesn't believe that you can do it. I think that's very important as well.
Yeah, and I think sometimes the person doesn't necessarily have to have been there and done it, because I think we're quite obsessed with that. Because coaching and training of technical content are very different things. Like, you have people like the new buzz thing is the likes of life coaches.
Yes. And
a life coach, it isn't necessarily a big, massive, successful business person, but they can coach someone towards that goal. And I think the big thing to remember is a coach is someone who holds you to account.
Yes.
Who can ask you questions to lead you to the place.
Yes.
Whereas a trainer is a different job. A trainer's job is to train you the technical skills that you need to do the job. And obviously that person has to have knowledge of the content that you're trying to learn or skill you're trying to develop.
Yep. No, I agree there. Yeah. Now, we've got our big goal in mind. We've started with the end in mind. We've worked out SMART goals, but having a logical sequence of training. How are we going to do that?
Okay. I always think of, and it's in every chat I've ever talked to you about, because I just think it's so important, is, you have to have a reference of training in that you have to decide what way you're going. So the ones I have 4 that I use, as you probably know, I have William Micklam's constants, which are acceptance, calmness, forwardness, straightness, and purity. I have his variables, direction, speed, impulsion, balance, and timing. I hope I don't forget any now. The German scale of training, which obviously we have to have in mind when we're doing dressage, because that's what's used as the measurement criteria: rhythm, suppleness, contact, impulsion, straightness, and collection. And then we've got the equitation science basic responses, or not a shaping scale, sorry, of basic attempt, obedience, rhythm, straightness, contact, and proof. And unless you have a way of measuring that my horse and I are improving, you cannot see whether your goal achieved or goal not achieved.
Yes.
Because you can't just go, oh yeah, I went and clear on the 80s. Just because you were clear on the 80s doesn't mean you necessarily did anything well. Were you clear on the 80s with a good rhythm? Were you clear on the 80s with the horse calm and accepting and forward? Because just because you got round the course of fences doesn't mean you were as successful as you thought. Your coach is there to say, right, in order for us to be able to progress to the 90s, your speed needs to improve or your direction needs to improve, whatever. So I just think having a way to input your info into a system is important to be able to get something out of the system.
Yes. Okay. So I'm just digesting, writing a couple of notes. It's what I do.
Yes,
but no,
that's okay.
Yeah. Number 3, only do your job. Who else's job would we be doing, or who else's job could we be doing, and why should we only do our job?
Okay. Again, it comes from that eventer mindset. The horse has a job to do and the rider has their job to do. So as far as I'm concerned, again, there's a lot of recycling in what I say, but anyway, the rider has only 4 jobs. The first most important job is you got to look where you're going and know where you're going. So I call that look and plan. You got to get your speed right for whatever it is you're doing. So if you're doing a collected canter in a Grand Prix dressage test, the horse is moving their legs in a slower beats per minute. If you're coming down to a 4-star massive trainer, the horse is going to be drumming across the ground in a really big canter, and the legs will be moving quite quickly because the beats per minute needs to have that blood up feeling.
Yep.
So that's, I suppose, is quite important. The other 2 jobs the rider has is direction. They have to make sure they communicate where are we going very clearly. So one of the things that happens a lot you see with show jumping is someone drags their horse onto the line, the horse starts drifting right, and they forget that their job is to make sure the horse has their 2 eyes on the fence, because horses have such poor depth perception because of where their eyes sit on their head. So your job is to make sure the horse is straight and on the line to that fence and not dragging the horse onto the fence. And the last thing is the rider's balance has to be out of the way so that the horse can jump, or if you're doing sitting trotters, you're not bumping on the horse's back and breaking their rhythm. And the horse's job is everything else. Like, there's nothing we can do to make a horse jump a fence. All we can do is get them down to the fence at the right speed with their head screwed on the right way, and then they've got to lift their legs. You cannot lift their legs unless you tie strings around them or something. That's just not it's not reasonable. Do you know what I mean? So
sure,
it's important to make sure you go, right, this is my job, this is your job, and I'll do my job and I'll leave you to do your job, give you the room to do it. That's the way I always think about it.
Look, I know that sometimes, you say, oh, well, I've already said that. I've already gone through that. But I think if you're going through it again and again, Brendan, it's got to be important, Otherwise you wouldn't be saying it again. Each time you come and you talk about a different subject, if you're saying something that you've said in a previous chat, it's because it's important. Okay.
The other thing I think about is that's often, I feel myself, is riding is a simple sport. Do you know what I mean? Like, the priorities are simple. The analogy I use a lot is that, it's riding a bike. If you're going around a corner on a bike, you slow down a little bit. Do you know what I mean? Or if your bike starts to wobble, it's probably because you're going too slowly. It's like you think about someone coming up a center line,
Yes.
Usually the reason why people wobble on the center line is because they're riding it too carefully. William Fox Pitt says you have to look the judge in the eye and dare them to give you less than a 9, and then ride through the windscreen.
Yes.
And do you know what I mean? Yes. And I'm there going, do you know what? That's such great advice, because the judge should feel you're coming up to them. Now, I'm not sure about the look in the eye and dare them to give you less than a 9. I tend to smile at them and go, I'm friendly, I'm nice, look at my lovely horse. But he's a different sort of guy in that, like, he's in the sport so long and he's just so brilliant in his competition record that he can do that.
Yes. Yeah. Look, something that you may have talked a little bit about before, but again, important, is about the breathing. Breathing, focusing the mind. Tell us a little bit about that.
Okay. One of the big things that the psychologist at the Pony Club camp was saying was that breathing is an involuntary response that we have. So when you get stressed, you start to breathe faster and get stressed. And it's kind of like when we talk about horses and their legs moving, in that when a horse is stressed, they do fast legs. So if we can reduce how fast their legs are moving, sometimes we can reduce the flight response, even if we can't reduce the stress. And by reducing the flight response, then hopefully the stress can ebb away. So it's the same with humans. One of the biggest problems I see as a coach, especially at the riding club level, is that people hold their breath when they do a show jumping round. How many times you come back after a show jumping round and go, oh my God, I can't breathe. And that's because you came into the show jumping round and went, and stopped breathing. So if you can train yourself to calm your breathing, it can help. But obviously the time to train yourself to calm your breathing is at home in training. There's absolutely no point in standing there with someone having a panic attack shouting, breathe, because it just won't happen. It's something you've got to go, right, I'm feeling stressed. Now I need to think about my breathing. Breathe in for 4 and out for 7 or whatever it is to try and calm you and focus your mind. For the past sort of year, I've been doing a mindfulness app. And one of the big things he does is he tells you to note your breathing. You don't have to do anything about it, but note your breathing and be aware of your breathing. By bringing the awareness to your breath, sometimes you can push away the external factors. So calm, controlled breathing is, I think, very helpful. And again, I'm one of the people I'm a total hypocrite in that I'm saying, I have calm, controlled breathing. At the end of the cross-country phase of the event, I can't breathe because I hold my breath. I practice at home and I try and do it, but still at the end of any cross-country course, I can't breathe because I've been holding my breath.
The first thing about, fixing a problem is to actually acknowledge that you have a problem, and then you can work on it. Because if you're saying, no, I don't, I am acknowledging that, so now I'm going to work on it.
Absolutely. So, and it's little goals. Like if you take the breathing and you turn into goals, go right. I'm gonna take 10 breaths before I get to the first fence or something. Yep. You can break it down, and then after you can do 10 breaths to the first fence, maybe you can do 5 breaths to the next fence or something, where you're consciously able to do it, and you do it over a small fence or whatever. And I suppose it's as coaches, we're developing goals, developing skills. So if we can bring our awareness a little bit away from the technical content and a bit towards the confidence, sometimes a big change can happen in the rider.
Another tip that I had for eventing and riding cross country is so many strides in, so many strides out. So you're just keeping the rhythm, keeping the rhythm of the galloping as you're going, and you just go breathing in for, 3 or 4 and out. And then you just keep that rhythm all the way around. Yeah.
And then as you go over the fence, you go,
yeah. Well, there's always that. All right. Now, leave your life at the gate and be in the moment. We talk about being in the moment. We talk about being in the moment when we're talking, communicating with people, communicating with horses, but this is at the competition. It's the same thing, being in the moment. Do you want to talk about that a bit more?
Yeah, I suppose the big buzzword at the moment is mindfulness. Mindfulness. We're all talking about mindfulness and all this, that, and the other. Mindfulness is also the same sort of thing as competition state.
Yes.
And the big thing is, if you're going in to jump a meter 10, or it doesn't matter what you're going in to do, you can't come in and start working around a meter 10 course going, oh God, I've got that chat with Glenys and I find her hard to deal with because she's always asking a difficult question. Because then your mind is with what's going to happen with Glenys later, or with the fight you have with the boyfriend. And if it's not on the job, it's not helping. Having said that, sometimes taking your mind a little bit off the job can help. So, for example, sometimes if I'm feeling really stressed and the course starts going badly, I sing a song in my head. And it's usually something simple and cyclical. Like one thing my wife makes me do at home when things are going badly is she makes me sing "When You're Happy and You Know It Out Loud."
Yes.
When you're happy and you know, clap your hands. And sometimes if you can do that, it can take your mind off whatever problem is causing you not to focus and bring you into sharp focus. The other thing I think is sometimes if, like we often call dressage, stressage, sometimes if you can take 5 minutes or even 2 or 3 minutes to do like a little mindfulness session sitting on the horse where you're focusing on your breathing, it can be more helpful than going, oh God, I've got to do my canter before I go in to make sure the horse is going forward. Sometimes it can be more helpful to go, let's focus on me. Because again, little bit like Eric Smiley says, you know, a horse is good to go. Like we focus so much on warming the horse up, and warming the horse up is to do with warming them up between their ears, not so much warming their muscles. Now, look, warming up their muscles is important. I'm not saying, oh, when you're going out cross country, sure, just go, it'll be fine. But if you've warmed the horse up sitting for 5 minutes or walking around for 5 minutes, focusing on your breathing and getting your mind in the moment can be really, really helpful so that you don't forget the test, so that you've got enough RAM to do the test. And when I say RAM, I'm talking computers, random access memory. That's what makes our computers slow or fast. So you have to have enough RAM for getting into the test. And if your computer's got a load of stuff going on in the background, it's exactly the same as your brain. Like my computer before I came on this chat, it had a load of stuff going on in the background. I couldn't get it to log in to Skype to get on the chat. So eventually I had to abandon it. But it's more, you got to make sure you have enough compute cycles going in the moment to be able to do the job.
Yep. What if it is going wrong? What can we do?
I suppose that's the big thing, isn't it? If it's going wrong, you've got to remember what's going wrong. Oftentimes someone will, they'll have the first fence down in a course of 14, and then the next fence goes down, and the next fence goes down. And the reason why the second fence goes down is because they're thinking about the fence that's just gone. To quote Kung Fu Panda, which is actually a brilliant coaching tool in a way, yesterday is history, tomorrow is a mystery. You had to focus on the present. So the only thing that's present is the fence that's coming right in front of you. That's what has to be dealt with right now. And I think in the same in dressage, you've got to focus on, maybe my 20-meter circle look like a potato, but I can still do a really good job of doing the rein back at sea. You've got to forget, you got to move on and don't get stuck. And that's what all the top people do. Like, again, I'm on a bit of a William Fox Pitt kick at the moment, but if you watch him jumping, you'll never see him turn his head and look back. He never does. And if you watch him, like if you get an action shot of him going over, say the triple, because there's nearly always a triple down the long side, you'll see that by the time he's over the second part, his head is turned and looking towards fence number 7 or whatever is coming up next, because he's done his job. And I suppose that's what we need to be doing, is you got to be thinking about what's your job and try and stick with doing your job and not get stuck in what you've done.
Now,
but it's hard,
Oh, absolutely. I'm thinking about the inner voice. The inner voice, it's going to help us, hinder us. Tell us how we can get our inner voice to help us and not hinder us.
Right. I read a book called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway by, I think her name was Susan Jeffries, I can't remember which it is. And she talks about the inner voice as your chatterbox. And your chatterbox can either say things like, oh my God, I've got to do this chat, and I'm not sure whether I'll be able to answer Glenys's questions, and maybe she'll send me a curveball and I'll look like a wally or whatever. Or you can have your inner voice and train it to go, oh yeah, I'm doing this chat with Glenys, it's going to be great, she's going to be asking me questions, and if I don't know something, then I can go and look it up, or I can say that, and then I can come back in my next chat and talk about it. And I think it's really easy to let yourself go, oh my God, that course is very big. Oh, that line is very tight. Ooh. Or you can go, okay, it's challenging. So you've got to accept it. It's a challenging course. I jumped that height at home and we had a bit of trouble, but what I've got to focus on is the speed, the direction, and my balance, and looking and planning where I'm going. And I think it's really important to acknowledge, like you said earlier, you've got to acknowledge, yeah, I'm afraid, or yeah, I'm finding it difficult, or this is challenging. But even the vocabulary you use can help. Like if you say, I'm scared, then you're kind of, I think you're kind of lighting up that part of your brain where if someone was pointing a gun at you, yes, you'd be scared, and you're lighting up that part of your brain. Whereas if you go, right, I'm finding it challenging. Challenges are there to be overcome. Whereas fear is something that has the feeling of freezing, I think. So you just change the vocabulary. I find this challenging. The turn is sharp. Instead of saying the turn is sharp, there's a strong bending line.
Yes.
And I suppose you've got to, at home, train your inner voice to say the right thing. So when you get into competition, you go, oh, right, challenging line, sharp curve, rather than really hard dog leg. And we've changed the vocabulary in the sport. We don't call them dog legs anymore. We call them bending lines. And I suppose if you can bring your coaching mentality in there as a rider, because as a rider, you're a self-coach, and you can talk in the right way to yourself, it can help a lot.
I can remember I worked for a trainer and he had a young son. And every Saturday morning his son would go off to football, and come home again in the afternoon. He'd say, well, how'd you go? Did you have a winning day or did you have a character building day? And I think the kids went out and I think they must have lost every single game that season, but a lot of character building going on. So kid came home really happy, what great character he was going to have to go into next season. And they just kept pushing the whole character building. It wasn't a losing day. He didn't lose. He built his character. And that's what happens when you lose. If you can't go out and win all the time, you just build character. So you talk about
Absolutely.
Challenges. They're not problems. They're just challenges, and they're there to be overcome.
Yeah, well, it's the same as like if you look at how the vast majority of people would ask that child about that match, most people say, "Oh, did you win?"
Yep.
And it puts the wrong emphasis. What you should always ask, in my opinion, is if someone says, "Oh, I was at a hockey match, at a hockey match or whatever," you go, "How did you play?"
Yes, that's right.
Because you've got to focus and again, back to the coaching mentality, you've got to focus on what can be done. How did you play? Yeah, I played well. Right. So you need to play well the next time. Mm-hmm. Or if they go, oh my God, I played really badly. Okay, what skills can we develop so that you will play better the next time? Whereas the problem is that winning and losing is if you lose, you are bad. If you win, you are good.
Yep.
Whereas if you focus on skills can always be improved, whether you did good or bad. And it comes back to that again, that idea of we should always come with a student mentality. Mm-hmm. So a year ago, started doing this martial art called Aikido. And I started it because I was there going, I need to remember what it's like to be a beginner. And what I'm sort of learning is being a beginner is hard. And with the likes of martial arts, you're always a student and you're always honing and correcting techniques to make them better. And I suppose it's something that we as trainers can be guilty of is coming and going, I'm the Grand Poobah. And instead of being the Grand Poobah, you must go in and learn from everyone and never think that I have all the answers. Like, it's amazing when you talk to top people, like you talk to the likes of Andrew, and Andrew is one of the best people for it.
Yes.
If someone came to him and gave a new theory of learning for horses that's evidence-based and research-based, Andrew would jump on that train. He would
welcome it with open arms and say, great, what can we do? How can we get this? And he would revise his own work and go, right, yep, that's just the way he is open.
He wouldn't turn around and go, no, hang on, sorry, my way is better than yours. If the evidence supports something, evidence supports something.
Yep.
And the way evidence, like even in our day-to-day lives, evidence can support things is, did what you do work with that student? Mm-hmm. Was it ethical, or did you just eat them and they did it? Mm-hmm. And I'm guilty of that sometimes, that you eat a student and it'll work. But was it the right thing to do? Probably not.
Yep.
But it worked. And if it worked and it was the wrong thing to do, it probably wasn't the right thing to do.
That's right. Now, the next point you got is think like a horse. So we're talking about 10 ways to get our head in the game. So do we think like a horse so that we can get our head in the game? How does that work?
Think like a horse. Again, it comes to that idea of mindfulness and being in the moment. Horses don't sit there, much and all as people would love to think of it. Horses do not sit there in the field going, here she comes, I'm going to give her hell today. They don't do that.
No.
They see you coming and go, oh God, it's a head collar, and they'll walk away. Or, oh, here's the treat machine. Yes. And it's the same in the way they go, I'm hungry, I'll go eat. I'm thirsty, I'll go drink. I want to move, I want to run, I want to do this. And they just do that moment. I saw a great book in a shop recently, and it was like the lessons we can learn from dogs. And I just opened it up and you start going through it, and it said something like always be in the mood to play. And it shows that animals are just so present. And a huge amount of our human problems come from not living in the moment and money. We worry about it. And again, the money thing is the same as not living in the moment. And there's a healing art called Reiki, and they have the precepts of Reiki, and it's like just for today, I will not be angry, or just for the day, I will do this. And I think it's a really good way. Just for the next minute, I will focus on my rain counter. Just for this minute, I will focus on my canter. And I think I'm very guilty of not being like a horse. I'm always there going, oh, this bend isn't right, and whereas you need to go right. We are here. My horse is looking left, and I'm trying to look right. How do I get the horse to go center? And how do I get the horse to bend to the right or whatever? So I think it's really important to think like a horse as much as you can.
Yep. You've talked about two positives and one thing to work on. Is that like after a competition? Is that in preparation for another competition? What's the two positives and one thing to work on? All the time? Okay.
All the time.
Okay.
So what I do with my kids and my adults, everyone I come in contact with, is we come to the end of whatever session it is, they've all got to give me a little star.
Yep.
A little star is a skill that you've developed or is on the way to being developed. So, for example, if you've got someone who has a problem keeping their heels down, my heels were down more today. Mm-hmm. Okay?
Yep.
Then you have the next thing is a wish. Something I wish I could change over time. That's like a big goal. So, for example, the person with the heels down their wish might be that I can keep my heels down for longer next time. Their big star might be I got round the course fence and I didn't die. Mm-hmm. You know, it's just, and I started off and I used to have them do star, wish. And then I was there, the most important thing to leave your client feeling is that they achieved. So it gives them a focus for positivity when they leave. Because oftentimes you'll see someone leave a lesson and the coach has read them the riot act, and that's the last thing they remember is the coach reading them the riot act. Whereas the coach has to go, here's something you did well, and it's good if you can draw it from them. Here's something to work on, and here's another thing you did well. Yep. Here's your homework now based on what you've told me. And it's the skill of the coaches to lead the person to give you, if you like, the right thing, the prioritized thing to work on. And that's the skill of the session, is you have to be able to have them know. Because we're not trying to have remote control people going around.
No.
We're trying to have students that when they go into competition, we are redundant for that moment. Mm-hmm. And I do it like my riding school kids they're doing a little dressage show. At the end of term, they do a little dressage show, a little jump show. And before they get their sheet back from the judge, because I don't judge them because they probably all get 4s if I judge them, but they come back to the judge. They have to give me the small star from their test, the wish for their test, and the big star. Mm-hmm. And do you know what's brilliant is that let's see now, 5 groups have done it so far. Of those 5 groups, nearly all the kids picked up correctly on what they'd done well.
That's good.
Correctly on what they worked on, and they've gone away from it going, I can develop those skills. And some of these kids are walk trot kids. This was their first time doing a dressage test, and it's absolutely terrifying for them. And they're coming away from it with a positive outlook on the dressage test, and they're also coming away telling me the right things, recognizing what they need to work on and recognizing what they did well. And I think we can sometimes turn riding lessons in a riding school move it away from sport and turn it into just, this is an activity. But it's sport, and we should be trying to encourage people into doing some sort of discipline.
Yep. I love the way, even right at the beginning, we talked about language and the stars and the wishes for someone who is a bit nervous or a bit worried or, doesn't think they've done very well. Someone who may be a bit pessimistic, you start talking about stars and wishes. It's something that they want to talk about with each other. What was your star today? What was your wish today?
Exactly.
It just puts the whole... Yeah, it's the whole impact of the whole conversation and what comes from the conversation. I think really, really good ones.
What's also interesting about it is, like, I originally started the stars and wishes thing. One of the kids came to me and said, "Oh, did we do this in school?" And I went, "Oh my God, that's brilliant, lush." And I started off doing it with the kids, and then some of the parents ride in lessons after the kids in their sort of adult lessons.
Yes.
And some of the parents started going, why aren't we getting our stars? And I was like, okay, well, we can do it. Because I was there going, you don't want to treat adults like kids, but adults love the idea of stars and wishes just as much as the kids do, and maybe even more. And I've got some adults and some kids, and what they do is they go home and they have a book and they write down their stars and wishes from the day. And one of the kids last week brought me in her book and showed me the stars and the wishes. She said, look how much they've changed.
Wow.
And this is a kid, this is a walk, trot, beginnery, bibbly-bobbly, just starting canter. And she's thinking of her progression. And she asked me, like, one day do you think I can go and jump like a big course of fences? And I was like, yeah, of course you can. Look at how much your skills have developed in one term. And this is what we should be promoting, is that they're always looking forward to where are we going next.
Yep.
Not where, and looking back to where you've come from can help. And that's the showing of it, like, in that she was able to extrapolate it out.
That's a good challenge to put out there, I think, Brendan, to start off after every ride, think about and analyse your ride. Think about the stars and the wishes recorded in a book, and don't look at the beginning of the book until this time next year, and then you can look back and say, wow, this is how far I've come.
Because my wife is brilliant in that I come in from a lesson and I'll come stomping in from a lesson. Oh, it was rubbish and the kids were this. And she will turn around to me, and it's the most frustrating thing to be quoted your own words. She'll ask me, give me a small star, give me a wish, give me a big star.
Isn't that good?
She does say it with a bit of sarcasm, but you know what? It really helps because it closes off that session.
Yes.
And then you can always find something good you did. Yeah, I didn't hit a kid. Do you know what I mean? Like, you can always find something positive. Yep. And the trick is to prioritize that, because, you look at our industry and you look at mental health, and we have a huge problem with mental health. And it's because of the way we negatively surround ourselves. If we could surround ourselves with a little bit more positivity and finish off each session looking for 2 good things and 1 thing to work on. And you can do the same with your day's work. You can come back from your day's work and go, oh God, my boss is such a pain, but I didn't hit her. And I did my work really well, even though she was on my back. And I think it's really important. I think, like, the rate of suicide, especially among people, young men in our industry, is something that we've really got to be aware of. And I think coaches have to be aware that putting on more pressure onto someone who's already under pressure doesn't help them. It just drives them further down and makes them hide. And we've got to draw people out and engage them and try and find the positives.
For sure. As usual, Brendan, brilliant. Love chatting to you. So much information and so much depth of knowledge that you keep talking, and lots of good ideas too. I've got a couple of instructors outside. They were just having a meeting. I'm about to go out and say, hey, what about this stars, wishes recorded in a book? I think a really good one. Yeah.
Prepare to be laughed at.
No, these ones are really good. They will. They'll come in tomorrow with it all in glitter and everything. So, putting it in the kids. So it'll be right.
Thank you very much, Glenys. Right. Great to talk to you.
Great to talk to you too, Brendan, and look forward to catching up with you again next time. But meanwhile, contact details. If people want to contact you, they can go to horsechats.com, search for Brendan, search for Bergin, or what's the best way?
the best thing to do is to go to our website, which is berginequine.com.
Yep.
And there you'll find email, phone number, whatever.
Perfect.
We also have quite an active Facebook and Instagram page, and you can contact us through that. But email is the best thing, because I sit down every night and I go through the emails and try and get through them. Sometimes it takes a week to get back, but I will get back to you if you email me. I will.
All right, good to talk to you, Brendan. See you next time.
Thanks,
Bye.
Glenys. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
If you've enjoyed this chat, then please comment, rate and subscribe. If you'd like any changes or recommendations for guests, then please contact us through horsechats.com. And while you're online, have a look at the government-accredited courses at internationalhorsecollege.com. Registered Training Organisation 31352.
Remember that our comments and instructions are general in nature and do not take into consideration your individual horses or your individual ability and circumstances. If you enjoyed this podcast, then please leave your comment below.